The last playable character is Aerith. Being a ranged magic user, hold attack to use her staff to attack enemies with magic bolts, which cause non-elemental damage based on her magic stat. The bolts aren't bullets like Barrett's gun. If you can't see the enemy or they're in cover, the bolts are likely to miss, but they do have some homing ability. Also, if you attack from close range, her basic attack is considered physical damage. Her unique ability is Tempest, a magic attack that does more damage and builds ATB. Tempest can be shot instantly or charged to fire a large shot that causes damage over time, and increases the ATB by 800 if the explosion hits. Her movement speed is the same as Cloud, but her dodge ability is lacking. Her stats lean heavily towards magic use and less towards HP and defense, so it's important to keep her away from the thick of combat and attack from afar. On the face of it, Aerith can seem pretty bland compared to the rest of the cast, but her potential is difficult to see as a lot of her strength takes a bit of setup in battle. A lot of her potential is locked behind an ATB cost, so being able to generate ATB and then use it efficiently is very important with Aerith. Let's take a look at her abilities. Soul Drain is Aerith's first ability, and already learnt from when she joins the party. Soul Drain damages as well as absorbs MP from the target. Against staggered enemies, it'll absorb more MP. It has a power level of 140 and a heat value of 1. Arcane Ward is learned from the guard stick. Aerith creates a zone around her that will allow double casting of magics. The ward lasts for 180 seconds. Magics cast by the party within the ward will cast twice, once at full strength and the second cast at about half the damage and heat values, but for 30% of the MP cost. Sorcerous Storm is learned from the Silver Staff, an all-purpose area attack that causes non-elemental magic damage. It has a power level of 294 and a heat value of 1. It's a straight damage ability, but with it being magic damage, it can cause more damage than some physical attacks as most enemies have less resistance to magic damage throughout the game. Fleeting Familiar is the Arcane Scepter's ability, an install ability that summons a fairy to assist Aerith and attacks along with Aerith's actions. It lasts 240 seconds. The fairy will fire a blue shot every 3 seconds. Blue shots have a power level of 5 and a heat value of 1. When Aerith uses a magic or an ability, the fairy will fire off a set amount of red shots depending on what was cast. Red shots have a power level of 10 and a heat value of 1. Red shots also have the launch effect against pressured enemies. I'll go over this ability in more detail after I've went over the rest of her abilities. The number of shots the fairy fires is dependent on which ability Aerith uses. Ray of Judgment is learned from the Mithril Rod, a magic beam attack that costs 2 ATB stocks. Ray of Judgment is an all-in-one damage and stagger attack. It has a power level of 640 and a heat value of 10, rising to 20 on a pressured enemy. In addition, for every hit of the attack made against a staggered enemy, the multiplier will increase by 2%, for a total of 20% when all hits connect. Lustrous Shield is the Bladed Staff's ability. Aerith casts a flower-shaped barrier in front of her which protects against ranged physical attacks, like machine gun fire. The shield lasts 120 seconds. Aerith can have up to 3 lustrous shields at any one time. It's not massively useful during the time she's playable in the main quest, so maybe it'll have a bit more use in part 2. Finally, ATB Ward is the Reinforced Staff's ability, a 2 ATB stock ward that allows party members to siphon Aerith's ATB gauge when using their own magics and abilities within it. The ward will restore 1000 ATB to Aerith, equal to 1 stock of ATB when the ability is cast. When party members use ATB within the ward, they will recover up to half of the ATB spent from Aerith's ATB pool. Back to Fleeting Familiar then. The number of red shots fired by the fairy depends on the ability used. Using Soul Drain with a fairy active will fire 3 red shots at the target. Sorcerous Storm will trigger the fairy to fire 1 shot for every enemy in the blast radius of the attack, which in-game equates to 4.5 meters. Ray of Judgment will make the fairy fire 6 red shots. In addition, the level of magic cast will trigger differing numbers of shots. Level 1 will net 1 red shot, level 2 will net 3 red shots, and level 3 magics will cast 4 red shots. Aerith's squishy HP and defense isn't really that much of a big deal as long as she's kept out of the way, allowing her to set up wards on the battlefield and build ATB with basic attacks and Tempest. From there, she turns into the highest burst damage dealer in the game, with naturally high magic damage, DPS boosting abilities, and the only character able to regenerate MP without the use of items. She is quite difficult to use, and you don't get that much chance to experiment with her abilities, but she is a fun and technical character to use as the party leader, and shines in repeat plays and hard mode.